Welcome to the I Will Mindset podcast. My name is Chris Elmore and I am your host, and this is episode 2. And why not kick off the Mindset podcast with failures? I will fail. What a great place to start. We're going to do lots of talking about ways to succeed, being committed, being resilient, all of these things. But before we do any of that, we need to look at failing, because I can guarantee you, you're going to fail. When you embark on a journey towards ambitious goals, it's like stepping onto a winding road. Each turn's going to present new challenges, unexpected twists. Maybe you're trying to lose weight. Maybe you're trying to run a marathon or run a marathon faster. You could be working towards a degree. You may have seen my videos and you want to start your own YouTube channel. Well, there's going to be setbacks and failures along the way. However, it's not the stumble that defines the journey. It's the resilience to rise, learn, and to continue what shapes our story of success. So let's start with me, for example. Let's talk about all my failures. First, here I am starting a podcast. Chris is starting another podcast. Yes, I've failed at starting a podcast at least 3 other times. It's happened over and over. But guess what? I've learned from each podcast I started. I started with a trail running podcast. It was called Rocks, Roots, and Ruts. And it was great. I had on guests. The problem was I faced an issue of getting guests on and recording when I had time. And I also faced the issue of wanting it to be perfect. If I messed up, especially on an episode that I didn't have a guest on, it's just me talking to the mic. How can I fumble? How can I mess up? I needed to go through, I felt this desire to go through and edit every breath, every pause, every stumble, take all those out. And it took so much time. And I started a podcast called The CJ Show, The Endurance Project. And each one of these, I have failed to continue to put out episodes. But the great thing is I've looked and I've analyzed and I've gone back and thought a lot about, why did I fail? What happened? And I believe I have figured out how to continue to do this. So now I am starting again. I haven't abandoned the goal, start a podcast. I will start a podcast. And yes, I failed, but I've gotten back up and I am starting this podcast and I'm excited. I feel that I've done my research, I've analyzed my failures, and I'm ready to go. Losing weight. Let's talk about another failure I've had. I have lost weight and then gained weight. It's happened many, many times in my life. Early in my career, I worked a ton of hours. I ate a ton of fast food coming out of college. I put on a ton of weight. Then started CrossFit, lost a ton of weight, got in great shape. Then I had kids. I stopped training, didn't do any more Ironmans, gained a bunch of weight back. Then got back into it, hit it hard, back in triathlon, doing some ultra running, all kinds of things like that. Then I bought a house, a project house that I literally tore down and rebuilt. I didn't do all the work, but I did a lot of the work. And during that time, I was working full time. I was here early in the morning doing the things that I could, straight from work, here in the evening, doing things that I could, and eating like crap all along the way. I gained a bunch of weight. Who would have thought? Then I talked about on the last episode, 8 months ago, I got injured. My pubic symphysis was injured. I had surgery to correct it. And during that time, I was depressed. I didn't train as much. I couldn't run. I gained weight. I have failed to maintain the desired weight that I have achieved many times, and I've failed over and over and over. But I will lose weight. I am losing weight right now, and I am back to pretty much almost where I want to be. So yes, it's a yo-yo. ups and downs. There are lots of reasons we fail at losing weight. When it comes to racing, I have plenty of failures. I DQ'd at Ironman 70.3 Oceanside. What happened? I broke a speed limit in a section that everybody else seemed to know. Why? Because I didn't go to the race meeting. I didn't realize that the course had a speed limit. And when I saw it, I didn't really think they were checking. So I failed. That was my fault. It was the first DQ I have ever had, but I learned race meetings are there for a reason. They are important. I ran a 24-hour ultra like weeks after running my 72-hour ultra and thought I would break 100 miles in 24 hours. I got 40 miles in and stopped. I failed to complete that goal. I was not recovered. I didn't take in nutrition correctly. It was a rough day. I have tried to break 50 miles multiple times at the World's Toughest Mudder. It's a 24-hour obstacle course race, and I have gotten within 5 miles and not achieved that yet. I almost got hypothermic. This next time, my stomach was a mess. And when you are racing in a wetsuit in 40-degree weather and you have to go to the bathroom every 15 minutes, it's a problem. Didn't make it. Breaking 5 hours in an Ironman 70.3. I have done that multiple times in the past, but since surgery, I haven't been able to do it yet. I have failed at Ironman 70.3 Arizona. I failed at the World Champs in Finland, the place I would love to race my best. Failed. And now I'm racing La Quinta in just a couple of weeks. And I'm hoping I will break 5 hours at that race. I know I can do it. I will do it. So there's failures everywhere, right? Launching the YouTube channel that I have, editing is time consuming. You'll put all this effort into creating videos and then no one watches. So you fizzle out. It's a common thread. Failing is going to occur. If you put yourself out there, if you are pushing your limits, then you're going to fail. But the key is it's not failing. It's the recognition that failure is not a permanent state. It's just a temporary detour on the road to completing your goals. So what I wanted to do in this episode is I've identified things that I have learned to do every time I fail. And I figured I'd share those with you, right? One of the first ones is adopting the growth mindset, right? And what that means is you are going to embrace challenges as opportunities for growth. When you run into something, when you fail to achieve your goal, you embrace that challenge, that failure, and you look for the opportunities to grow. How can you grow from what happened? Reflect on it. What went wrong, right? Was it your ability? Was it some external factor, right? Understand that intelligence, talent, success, it can all be developed through dedication, hard work, and learning from our mistakes. But you've got to adopt that growth mindset. Next is reflect objectively, right? You've got to reflect on what happened. Step back. Give the situation a little bit of time, because sometimes when you fail, you are too frustrated, you are too angry to actually be objective. So give it a little time. Then step back, assess the situation with clear and an objective perspective, right? Avoid the self-blame and focus on understanding the factors that led to the setback. What were the circumstances? Like I said earlier, were they external factors? Was it weather? Was it your nutrition? Maybe you're racing and you bonked, right? What was it? Was it within your control? And then just identify these aspects that can provide valuable insight to the root cause. So be objective. Next is really be detailed in that analyzation of what happened, right? Break down the process. Dissect the entire process leading up to the failure. Let's say you continue to hit the wall during your marathon, during your Ironman, then you need to examine every step that led up. Your nutrition in the morning, your nutrition right before the swim, your nutrition on the bike, your hydration. Look at every step you took, the decisions you made, the actions you implemented, and hopefully, by breaking down the process, the steps into smaller components, you can start to pinpoint the areas where you can make improvement and kind of create a more effective strategy for the future. And in the case of bonking, that comes down to practice, right? Maybe you didn't practice your race nutrition as well as you told yourself or you told your coach that you did. Maybe you skimped on it, and ultimately it just continues to show up during your racing. Another is seeking feedback, constructive feedback, looking to a coach or a mentor. Maybe it's time you stop going at it alone and bring in a specialist. Maybe it's your running form and you need to bring in somebody that can look at what you're doing. Maybe it's a nutritionist to help you create a plan, dial in your macros, all of those types of things so that you can now start losing weight effectively instead of overeating or undereating and yo-yoing. Seek that constructive feedback, and maybe it's time to bring in a professional. Next, identifying patterns. That is, all goes back to breaking down the process, looking at it. But let's look at losing weight. I think that's a really good one for identifying patterns. What are the reoccurring themes, the behaviors that contribute to your setbacks? Do you binge eat at a certain part of the day? Do you skip meals? Do you fail to plan what you're going to eat? Do you not take the time to prepare things to take with you? So then you're out and you stop and you're hitting fast food all the time? Identify those patterns. What are the key things? What are these triggers that are causing you to overeat? And if you can really identify those patterns, you can then try and make some informed adjustments to the approach. You can start to plan better, right? And that comes down to mindset. It comes down to not procrastinating. It comes down to planning. The lack of planning is a huge part of failing at a diet. It's not preparing the food, not putting yourself in a situation. Just recently, my kids had a pizza party. It was Halloween. They were doing a trunk or treat for soccer. And I knew they were going to order pizza and there was going to be candy and cupcakes and junk food and all kinds of stuff. I knew going to that event that I needed to eat before I went or prepare my food so I could eat while everyone else was eating. And I felt that preparing my food and bringing that food with me was the better bet. Because if I ate before I went, I am always hungry. So then I'm going to get there and I'm going to smell the pizza and I'm going to be hungry again. So I decided to just make my meal. I heated it up in a glass container. I put it in kind of an insulated lunch pail so it stayed warm. And then when everybody started eating their pizza, I went and ate my chicken and sweet potato and broccoli. And guess what? I felt fine. Did the pizza smell good? It sure did. But I felt fine. So what does that come back to? That comes back to creating an action plan. I know from past experiences that you put me in a situation where I'm hungry and there is poor choices, I'm going to most likely make that poor choice. So I created an action plan to bring my own food. So in conclusion, this is a shorter episode, I think, than the last one. What have we talked about? What can you take away from this, hopefully? That analyzing your failures, it's not about dwelling on the shortcomings, right? The whole idea behind looking at what caused the failure is not to dwell on what happened. It's not to negative self-talk. It's not to relive the failure over and over. It is to turn these setbacks into growth opportunities. So analyzing failures, it's about growth opportunities. Number 2, adopting that growth mindset, right? Reflecting objectively, seeking feedback, creating actionable plans, right? You can leverage failures as a powerful development tool. That is just a mindset. The I will mindset, it's all about leveraging your failures for growth. So I'll leave you with a quote to end this episode, and then I will talk to you next time. Our greatest glory is not in never failing, but in rising every time we fail. Confucius.
It's the coldest hand that run down this land where the ocean lands. It's the tallest sound, the damn smallest crowd, but their hearts break loud. Far from ever feeling lost with me, I'll push you back towards the land and sea. They're going down for love, and love is free. Stick with me and I will guarantee you're never lost among the crowd with me. Never lost among the crowd with me. Everywhere you go I'll be. Anywhere you go I'll see. You're never lost among the crowd with me. It's the furthest sun, the gun done for love. It's a pulse and shove. It's the sharpest cry. The here goes, but why? Where the desperate lie. Far from ever feeling lost with me, I'll push you back towards the land and sea. They're going down for love, and love is free. Stick with me and I will guarantee you're never lost among the crowd with me. Never lost among the crowd with me. Everywhere you go I'll be. Anywhere you go I'll see. You're never lost among the crowd with me. Crowd with me. Never lost among the crowd with me. Everywhere you go I'll be.